Now, there are only a few days left until Christmas, and many families across the country come together to enjoy the spirit of the season along with a proper meal. And this is no different in Portsmouth. Staff at Fort Nelson have now heated up their ovens to show visitors what a Victorian Christmas feast looked like for the soldiers there. And our reporter Nicole Ris followed the scent of fresh mince pies to learn more about the origins of today's Christmas traditions.
The Christmassy smell of mince pie and roast has already taken over in this garrison kitchen at Fort Nelson. Visitors are being invited to step back in time and see how head cook Mrs. Blenkinsop prepares a Christmas feast for the soldiers.
We're offering visitors the opportunity to visit the fort and experience a Victorian kitchen. Visitors will be taken behind the scenes and have a tour of the officers' mess, which isn't normally open to visitors. And they will see how the officers would have experienced Christmas, and then they will be taken down to the barrack room and the Victorian kitchen to see how the soldiers would have experienced Christmas. All our characters are in costume. We've got a Sergeant Dobson, a Mrs. Blenkinsop and a Mrs. Atkins. Mrs. Blenkinsop is cook's help, so she's very humorous, a traditional sort of cook's help character. Sergeant Dobson is very informative, and he'll be providing the guides and the tours throughout the fort, and Mrs. Atkins is a private's wife.
The Christmas feast at the fort was not the same for everyone.
The officers were quite lucky. They would actually have had 2 Christmases, so they would have celebrated Christmas Day with the soldiers, and then on Boxing Day celebrated their own Christmas in the officers' mess, and this would have been on a mahogany table. It would have had china, cut crystal glasses, maybe some port and cigars afterwards. The traditional Christmas dinner was much the same as what we have today, so it could have been a turkey, a goose or a side of beef. The Christmas tree and the decorations would have included dried fruit, nuts or small trinkets on the tree, depending on how wealthy the officers were and how late in the Victorian period. There may have been gifts put underneath the tree.
And on the other side, we're now down in the barracks. That looks quite different here.
It does.
What can you tell us about how soldiers experience their Christmas?
Soldiers, completely different. As you can see, the table is stripped planks. The plates and the cutlery are metal. There may have been some beer bottles on the table, but it would have looked quite bleak compared to the officers' Christmas table. There's no Christmas tree. There's some light vegetation around. They would have saved the whole year for their Christmas meal. Depending on how friendly they were with the chef would depend on the size of their portions, but again it could have included turkey, potatoes and some vegetables.
The nicely decorated Christmas tree and sending cards as we know it today hasn't always been a part of the festive season in Britain. It was Queen Victoria and Prince Albert who popularised the tradition.
It was believed that the Christmas was introduced by Prince Albert when he came over here. He was reminiscing of his childhood in Germany, which involved a Christmas tree and a family. And it was then introduced into England, and Queen Victoria and Prince Albert put out a Christmas card displaying themselves with the family and a Christmas tree. And following the release of this Christmas card, everybody across the nation then introduced Christmas trees and the family Christmas celebrations together.
People can experience the Victorian Christmas along with mulled wine and mince pie until the 23rd of December. Nicole Ris, for That's Solent.